Welcome to the Simon Racing Report for the 2019 Thrustmaster iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series preview. We're live here, of course, myself and Beau Albert. We're recording this with an exciting preview show coming up. You are Australia's #1 I-rated driver, and it's good to have somebody with your credibility on for this show.
I think credibility is a little bit too much. I just like doing the official races, and I've somehow ended up with the highest I rating in Australasia. So I'll take it. I'll take the accolade while I'm here. But yeah, there's some very quick Australians out there who I think just don't have the I rating. But hey, the new season is coming up for the WCS, and I'm really, really looking forward to it.
And we know you had the talent to race in a series like this, but we know the time zones didn't help you. There are issues in terms of latency that cost you some good results, and it really frustrated you in your campaign. But nevertheless, though, we know hopefully in 2020 you were able to make an appearance in the World Championship. We'll see.
Well, fingers crossed they'll have to go through the pro qualifying series again, which is just brutally tough. But my only hope in the pro qualifying series is I don't end up like how I did at Phoenix, where for Aussies, we know about the latency issues and having to give extra room to cars with all the ping and whatnot, but
yeah.
In other series, we don't have to worry about tyre bundles which move being lag-throwed into your car and landing on your roof, which happened to me at Phoenix and cost me a third place in the main strength of field. So out of all the ways I've retired in a race, Johnny, that is by far the most unique for me.
Yeah, I've had my fair share of weird retirements, but never a tyre bundle. I've had cones stuck under the car and other dilemmas such as that, but never that. But nevertheless, we're going to preview everything from our drivers list. So old faces return, new faces to learn. We're going to look at the series calendar, some bets in between, and we have an awesome driver survey that we've sent out to all our 26 competitors in this 2019 campaign. They filled that out, given their opinions, and that will help us preview the show and make it a little bit more spicy, of course. One last thing is we're going to look at some of 2018's greatest moments in the meantime. But first off is the series calendar. Here it is. I see Atlanta on twice and Sonoma on twice, which is awesome. Every other track, well, Daytona's on there twice, of course, too. But the only layout we visit twice is Sonoma. So a very fun track, great for overtaking. I'm glad that's on there twice.
So am I. It's absolutely brilliant. I know the drivers love it. It's got the elevation change. Turn number 1 is terrifying in that racing situation. The downhill plunge on tarmac, right up against the wall. We saw carnage last season in that as well. And I think it's a track that the drivers are always going to enjoy. So I'm not too surprised to see it twice.
Yeah, and Atlanta, of course, brand new to the series. That's a track that was introduced actually midway through the 2018 season, but obviously we're not going to add that to the calendar midway through the campaign. But that might be, and actually, can we confirm, is one of every Rallycross driver's favorite tracks. And from yourself, who's one of the top Rallycross drivers in the world, you can confirm that.
It is. It's a brilliant track, and it's got one of the most unique sections. And if you haven't seen rally car, flying around Atlanta's Rallycross course, it has this really unique turn that no other track on the calendar can replicate. And I'm really glad we're going to that track first, because it's that really cambered right-hander where it's almost an elevated platform. You're drifting all the way through, and then into a really quick left-hander. It is one of the best sequences you'll see in Rallycross. And it's also a really good passing opportunity, and some of the battling you can see there. I remember seeing a video between the two Apex Racing Team drivers, Yohann Harth and Jon Robertson, having a fight there. If we can expect that for the WCS round number 1, holy cow, we are in for a treat.
Yeah, no, I can't wait to see it. At the bottom right, it's a really important note. The all events will be at 5:45 p.m. GMT on a Saturday. And Beau, you should have said before when I asked you why aren't you racing in the series, you should have said you were good enough to win the Pro Series. You just didn't want to race at 3:45 a.m. in the morning.
Can we re-record? Is that possible, Johnny? Or
okay, let's do it. Let's cancel this one. I'll get up to my.
We're done.
One thing I really hope Rallycross does iRacing does for Rallycross is introduce the Dirtfish Rally School. It has the Monte Carlo-like tunnel when it goes through the old warehouse. And if that's going to be a track that they can get onto the service, boy, I would love to get into more Rallycross racing.
That would be amazing. And can you just... I remember the Inex racing team for a little while was doing the Simkhana videos. Imagine what you could do with the Dirtfish score. That would be incredible. Like, there'd be so many opportunities for that. So I would love to see that too. And as a course as well, that would be brilliant going through the little warehouse, little section.
Another track. Now, where's Lucas Oil? That's round 4 on the schedule on the 26th of October. Lucas Oil has... It's got a Joker lap that people find a little dull, but I think sometimes it can cause a bit of carnage. So ironically, as boring as the Joker is at Lucas Oil, it actually bottlenecks into that first few corners. So I remember in round 7 last year in the championship, Johnny Heikkinen and Mitchell de Jong, they both had early damage because of the nature of the Lucas Oil long straight into the bottleneck of the braking zone. They lost track position early, and that led to Josh Fox winning his first feature race of his career, and so far the only feature race of his career. So I think Lucas Oil Raceway is, going back to the Monaco Grand Prix, it's like the Monte Carlo street circuit of this series.
It almost could be defined as that. It's definitely an interesting track, and a lot of the drivers have a love-hate relationship, but I think it's very much swayed in the favor of hate more than love. The Joker lap... As a viewer, I think it's fantastic because you do get that funneling effect in towards turn number 1. You get the carnage, you get the, really close racing. But as a driver, every time you enter there, you just have this horrible feeling in your gut that I'm going to get hit any second, and you're just preparing for how to react to that. So that's one of the downsides, but you do get some great racing. I mean, you said Johnny Heikkinen and Mitchell de Jong. You remember that fight they had where they were just like bumping each other quite a fair bit into that final hairpin, just getting the run onto the oval. Yeah. If we can see more of that, then happy days.
Well, we saw that at Iowa, remember? Iowa is only on the schedule 1.
That was a bit more than bumping.
Yeah. Iowa is only on for round 6 of the series, but I mean, if I had to pick another circuit I'd love to see on twice, it would be Iowa, because I feel like the Joker lap there, being how it cuts most of that middle sector, it's really a lottery sometimes over there as well. You don't know who's going to win, and we saw that with Garrett Lowe in round 5. He took one of the most surprising victories we've ever seen in all of motorsports, a moment of 2018, which we're about to review right now.
You're potentially, just a little bit of consistency goes a long way, and maybe they can work their way up the field. This drama out in front between Mitchell and Johnny Heikkinen, bit of a shot as they work through the hairpin coming from the front fender of that Vera's going to Sinsport Subaru, as Mitchell is checked into the fight for the race lead. He is a hungry Californian, and he wants to win here, right now.
He does. Penultimate lap of the event. Lap 9 to 10. Going for the lead is de Jong here. Hits the tire bollard. Contact between the two. They're still going to slice and dice for the lead here. For the victory of round 5. Can de Jong end Johnny Heikkinen's 2-win race streak? And can he return to the top step of the podium? Overshooting the hairpin is Johnny Heikkinen. And through the exit goes Mitchell de Jong. He's up the inside and should have the line here in the final corner. And all the momentum heading to the final lap. Excellent switchback by Johnny Heikkinen. Incredible racing between the two, but de Jong will end out on top as we begin the final lap of the event.
White flag waves, they head into the first corner. Chrome horn going to be in effect for both drivers. Johnny Heikkinen is not happy, and Mitchell is going to go around. He goes from second, potentially down even further. Cedric Geismere gets involved. Phil Diaz may get chopped up into this as well. Somehow Mitchell holds on to P2, but drama for your race leaders on the final lap. Mitchell de Jong, I do not think will be happy at all as the Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact. Garrett Lowe with Joker on the final lap will end up victor of round 5 of the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series. The Fusion Racing driver, in the end, the timing screen's still updating. It's shuffled all over the place. Zelensky with a Joker on the final lap in 3rd. Remember, we had those 5 cars who didn't take to the Joker, all taking to it on the final lap. Heikkinen will end up in 2nd, de Jong in 4th, Guest in 5th. These are your unofficial race results. Replay on screen there at the final lap here. So here's de Jong through the tarmac section, Heikkinen through there, and there's Garrett Lowe, the Fusion Racing driver, all unscathed and takes victory, Randy. Something that we knew those drivers had the Joker, but of course with all the banging and bumping and the battling between de Jong and Heikkinen, they lost a lot of time.
Yeah, that's going to be, I think, the big thing to talk about. I know that those drivers between Heikkinen, and De Jong. There's going to be a lot of frustration there, I think, between the two of them, given the amount of contact. But considering neither of them ended up winning the race, they only have themselves to blame. I think, honestly, seemed to me like Mitchell was running a little bit on tilt. There was that early contact, and then the moment Mitchell got close to Joni Heikkinen, he seemed just absolutely dead set on setting the nose as early as he possibly could into every single corner, and that's what cost him so much time, and that's really what gave this 51 car of Garrett Lowe the victory. A little patience just went a long way for Fusion Racing.
Oh my God, I ran out of breath. I don't even want to read these results on screen. There they are.
That was, Beau, the finish with Garrett Lowe. One of the most exciting moments I've ever seen in sim racing history, motor racing history. It was an iconic moment where, I mean, even hearing Randy and I bamboozled by the timing graphic at the top of the screen, it was literally, when you watch it back, it was shuffling all over the place. I didn't even know who won until about 20 seconds after Lowe crossed the line, because I was like, did he actually win the race? I was confused.
I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about Iowa, isn't it? It's that does create that unpredictability right at the finish when you have a driver wait to the very last second to take the joker. It just creates this awesome moment where the driver in second has like 2 corners maximum to get the lead back from the driver that's just jokered. And of course, there wasn't enough time at all for the rest of the chasing pack to get to Garrett Lowe. And what a great victory that was for him.
Yeah, it was. It was his only feature race victory of his career so far. And he returns to the series. But what we've done for this campaign in 2019 is send all our 2019 licensed drivers a driver survey, and they have been able to answer questions that we will show the results of in our preview show this afternoon. So first up is our survey on the series calendar, and which are the most and least enjoyable circuits, Beau. And straight away, I look at Sonoma there at the top of the list. Why is it so fun? Coming from a Rallycross driver like you who's competed in the Pro Series, why do the drivers love Sonoma so much?
I think it's just one of those tracks that allows for experimentation, because you've got the wide open corners, you've got so many different lines available, and it has the room for passing. It's got the interesting joker where you cut the entire NASCAR turn 6, I believe it is. It's just a really cool circuit, and I think it's just one that the drivers know that every time they get there, no matter how quick they are, no matter how off the pace they might even be, they've always got a good chance of a result, because you can pass, you can make moves, and you can work the strategy to your advantage.
And again, like we said, Atlanta is always so fun. Phoenix, I found, personally, I'm not a fan of Phoenix, but people seem to enjoy it. Any reason why you think I don't like it, for example?
I think Phoenix is... if I was to do this survey, I think I would probably vote for Phoenix as maybe my second favorite. It's a fantastic circuit. I love the first corner mayhem where it's a really fast run in towards turn number 1, hard braking zone hairpin, and the run over the jump is fantastic because it's so knife edge. If you get the takeoff of the jump wrong, you're saying hello to a tire barrier really quickly, and there's nothing you can do about it. But one quick interesting note about Phoenix is iRacing recently made a change to how the Joker lap works and the actual runoff for that lap. It caused so many crashes in Pro Series. I remember in my Pro Series race, Jon Robertson had one of the worst shunts I've ever seen. He got absolutely snookered out of Phoenix. He went all the way back to Lucas Oil or something. So I'm pretty glad they've made that change. But it definitely will make for a very different Phoenix to what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, let's look at the least enjoyable circuits, and straight away, I mean, Lucas Oil Raceway, we all know why. It's like the Monaco Grand Prix of circuits to drive, but why is Iowa so high up there? I love Iowa.
Iowa is brilliant, but I think the issue with Iowa is if you don't work the Joker to your advantage, there's no way you can pass. It's very, very tricky to make passes happen around Iowa. And yeah, it's a bit of a shame to see it that low, because I'm personally a fan, especially coming from a tarmac background. But for more of these dirt drivers, there is literally one corner that is dirt, and that is turns 1 and 2. But you really take it as one single left-hander, so maybe they don't like the variety of not having much dirt compared to tarmac. I don't know, but I know for me, I'd have it a bit higher.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do like it. If we move on to the most interesting Joker, Iowa's up there, which is obviously you know, we just watched it a few minutes ago with Garrett Lowe's victory. That was quite an exciting joker. Phoenix now with the change, drivers seem to find it very interesting, like you said. So very interesting to see Phoenix up there as well. Voted amongst, these are the drivers competing in this year's 2019 season. If we flick over to the least interesting joker, look at how many votes for Lucas Oil Raceway. Wow, I mean, what is it, a 2-second delta time? Not even.
No, not even. Like I know some drivers were experimenting taking the start to that joker flat, which means you can actually almost, not quite, but almost gain time by doing it if you play it right. So, I am a little surprised it got that hated compared to the others, but with the carnage it causes at the same time, I think drivers are just thinking of it in that regard, where it's not the worst joker, but the effect of the joker is probably the worst of them all.
Yep, and then the final results from our driver survey we look at, and these are not surprising. The best circuit to overtake out by far is Sonoma. Lots of overtaking opportunities. We saw some brilliant ones that we'll show you later on in our previous show. And then the worst circuit to overtake at, no surprise, Beau, Daytona Short.
Yeah, Daytona Short is very tricky to pass because the really only opportunity you've got is into that final corner, because the rest of it is quite closed off. And the difference between the short and the long layout is, of course, the short layout skips back. It doesn't use the oval at all. It just skips back around to the main start-finish line. And that section is just walls left and right. It feels like a Monaco, like Lucas Oil, but there's just no room to pass. So it's one of those circuits where if you get the start and the pole position right, you've almost done 90% of the job.
Well, we will discuss this with our first guest of the day. Let's head to him. All right, here he is, our first guest for the preview show, the man with the best sim racing rig of all time, Steliyan Chepilevski. Are you going to be racing this season in VR again?
Oh yeah, oh definitely. And I have some upgrade here. So last year I was running on Oculus Rift, and this year there is a new headset which makes the picture so clear, and I have even bigger field of view. So
okay.
Yeah, I have few upgrades. You know, I'm trying to put everything I can, you know, on my rig, so I can push myself and have the best, you know, equipment around. So this year there is no excuses. Let's see how it's going to work.
So I look at your stats from last year. You finished 4th in the championship, 154 points down on champion Mitchell de Jong. You were Mr. Consistent, definitely the most consistent driver throughout the entire year, but you never won a feature race, and you were never on the podium, and you only had 3 top 5 finishes in the feature races. How are you going to make that change in 2019?
But I hope with the team we put so much work the last months, and I'm getting ready actually this year for the feature races, because last year I were preparing more for the heat races, just to make sure I'm going to be in every single final feature race to pick up the points. But last year I were never ready for the warm conditions, and this year we practiced a little bit more. So let's see how it's going to work.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm quite ready, but let's see.
And the good news is this team you have, or this year I should say, you have a team that's more European based compared to Fusion Racing. You had a lot of quick, talented guys, you know, Josh Fox and all the other guys, but now you've got, who is it again? You got Yohann Harth. I know you've got Jon Robertson. Who else am I missing from the team again?
And Kevin Carlise.
Ah, yes.
Kevin is also, Kevin is really
very strong,
really good driver. Yeah. So we have amazing line this year, and we put so much work together. And all 4 cars will be really fast this year. I feel like at this time we have the fastest cars on the road. And let's see how it's going to work. I don't know what the other guys are doing there, like Ioni. I haven't seen Ioni practicing around, and Michel, I don't think he ever touched the car the last month. So let's see how it's going to work. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but you've been tipped by your peers. We're going to look at it later, but your peers have been really think you're quite an underrated driver. They think you have the potential to win a feature race. You know, I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do. And remember last year, I was rooting for you quite a bit. I said you were going to be the next feature race winner. And then all these other names, Garrett Lowe got a feature race win. Yohann even got one too, your teammate this year. Josh Fox won at Lucas Oil. I remember the round at Daytona for round 6. You were 1.5 seconds off victory, and you still bloody finished 4th in that race. It was one of the closest finishes ever. Like, what do you have to do to get on the podium or a win?
Oh, I have to push. I have to push more. That's what I have to say. Like you said on Daytona, it was I felt like I'm really quick there. I had the same pace to win the race. It was just that weird position on the start of the feature race, and then I stuck behind Yoni, and a few times I came super close to his car, so I just back off a little bit because on the world condition is really difficult, and those guys already fight for the championship, and at this point I think I was out of the fight for the title, so I played a bit safely there. But it's about strategy, about the right decisions you're gonna take at the right time. It's complicated when so many good drivers are around, so it's not that easy to bring really the best results.
Do you think Daytona is your best track? Because I remember round
No.
1 there. Definitely your best track?
No, definitely not. I hate this track. I hate this track. I don't like it at all, especially Daytona Short.
What are you talking about? Round 1 last year, you qualified second. I think you qualified behind, I think it was only Mitchell who qualified first. And then Daytona Short, you're 1.6 seconds off the lead. I can't remember how you did there in the final round, but I thought it was one of your great tracks. Maybe you hate it, but you're good at the track.
You know what? I was the first one who out-qualified Michel de Jong ever. And it was on this track. I take the qualify.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that happened because I really don't like this version of the track. I love the long one, but not the short one. For some reason, I'm quite fast there, but definitely it's not my favorite track. My favorite, I feel like, is the one we're going to start next week.
Atlanta
And
Long?
yeah,
Oh,
I
it's
love
a
this
lovely
track. Man, I love it.
Sexy.
And yeah, it is. And the last year, my favorite track was Iowa, and I had really good chances to win Iowa last year, but didn't work that well for me. I end up on my roof. So yeah,
Wait, did you say Iowa or Sonoma?
no, Iowa.
Oh, the first one. Yeah, and the problem is with Iowa is it's only on the schedule once. And I remember do you remember that race you took the Joker lap at Iowa and you needed to win? I can't remember if it was a feature race or a heat. And you like hit the barrier while you were taking it. It was it's quite a fun Joker lap there. It's so tight and twisty.
Yeah, it is. I don't remember. I remember what happened on the World Championship that I win the feature race, and I mean the feature race, the
The
heat.
heat race.
Yeah, and then I quite had really good start on the feature race, and I push Michel to take first the Joker.
Yeah.
And then something happened on the second lap, and I decided to take the Joker, and we had a little contact
Oh yeah,
with
you crashed.
Michel. Yeah.
Oh, and he had the DNA.
And I end up on my roof. Yeah.
Oh no, I remember that. It was at the final corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and then that could have been your first win because you were almost quicker than Mitchell that round. So again, it's the luck. I feel like you need a bit of luck on your side.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, that race, if you remember, Garrett Lowe take that race, just taking the Joker last because Michel and Yoni start fighting. Like they had really dogfight fight there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Crazy. That
Yeah,
was the Garrett Lowe race.
Sometimes there is so many little things must work together to bring the best results. You need a little luck, definitely.
You haven't seen it yet because the show's not out, but we just watched the end of that race, the one we were just talking about, where the Garrett Lowe won in our memorable moments for 2018. So that's the race, ladies and gentlemen, that Steliyan's talking about. You could have seen him win that race, perhaps, in our 2018 greatest moments, but he'll be gunning for that this year. I'm hoping as well, do you think, I mean, we talked before about having now a European-based team for you to help with testing. Do you think the new time of 5:45 p.m. GMT on a Saturday, is that going to play to your benefit more?
Oh God, for me that's gonna be great benefit. You know, I'm really, you know, I'm not joking. In the weekends, I'm like half seconds quicker. Really, in whatever racing I'm doing, I can be like between 3/10 and half seconds quicker. And imagine now, last year for me was, I think, 3 in the morning. I had to make the races. So last year I came back from work like 5 p.m. and I pushed myself to sleep till 11 p.m.
Oh,
And
wow.
then, yeah, I put alarm and make some exercises, yoga, breathing. You know, I didn't eat anything just to be fit. And sometimes I was in really great conditions, but sometimes just didn't work. You know, it's so weird time. But this year, for me, definitely is going to work. Brilliant.
When I raced in 2015 in FSR and even 2014, the races were obviously, 3 a.m. at my time. So I didn't do the yoga tricks. I think I should try that if I ever get back in a World Championship sim racing, hopefully one day. But I used to wake up, let's say, 2.5, 3 hours before the race, and I used to set a cup of coffee, which I used to think helped. I'm not sure if it actually helped me too much. And then I ended up, I just did like race laps and stuff like that till I woke up. At the time I was young, you know, I didn't think about all the other exercise and physical stuff that would have helped me wake up. But anyway, man, I mean, let's hope it actually works and it gets it going for yourself. That was Cheppy himself. What an awesome dude, Beau.
He's amazing, isn't he? And he's got one of the best racing setups. He's so passionate about what he does as well. So looking forward to see how he does in this season. He's always competitive. He's always fun to talk to. So good to hear from him here as well.
Well, now it's time to look at our drivers list for 2019. As I said, some new faces to learn as well. Old faces to return. I love that phrase. I'm going to use that for the rest of the season. Maybe he'll be on my round 1 script this week. So Mitchell de Jong returns as champion. We have 14 drivers returning. Yorgi Zadzon had to go through the Pro Series. Now, you've competed against him, Beau, in the Pro Series, so we'll talk about that in just a moment's time, because not only did you compete against him, but we have 12 new rookies coming from that Pro Series.
Yeah, and some very quick ones there. I mean, you've got Jon Robertson, Kevin Carlisle as well. They're two scary names who are going to mix it up with the de Jongs, the Heikkinens, and the Chepilevskis in the main series. So keen to see how they get on. But we've also had a few team changes as well. So for these rookies going into the main WCS, there's a lot of change going on. So we'll see how they go.
Yeah, it's a little difficult in our preview show here to find everybody's teams, because I think there was one driver I spoke to who I'm not going to name, and I can't say the situation because this is how sort of under the wraps it's being kept. But I spoke to him, I think, 4 days ago, and they said, yeah, I'm driving for this team. And then I spoke to him yesterday, and they said, oh, our team's changed to this now. And I was like, oh, God. So I don't know if we can really get teams on for most of these guys in this preview show. But nevertheless, you look at the drivers leaving the series. A lot of Frenchmen's leaving. Our only Aussie, unfortunately, which is why I'm disappointed in you, Beau, as to why you're not...
I'm sorry.
as a rookie in the series. Julian Shine's the big disappointment for me, because I love that guy because he was so entertaining to watch. He was very erratic on the racetrack. He just did not give a damn at times, and he was sort of the underdog you really rooted for.
Nah, he was. He had some good showings in some races, but whenever it came to the feature, whenever it came to, getting out of the consolation even a couple of times, he just did not have the pace when he needed it. He didn't have the luck as well in a few cases. So it's a shame to see Julian bow out, because he was very, very fun to watch, like you said. And even a couple of others, like I know Thomas Gerstenberg, I remember seeing him have some really highlight moments, whether it was good racing or even having a few rollovers even. He was good as well. So a couple of names that is sad to see go, but as I said before, we do have some very good rookies to fill their shoes.
And back to the driver survey. Here it is. And this is who your drivers tipped to be 2019 champion. Mitchell de Jong, no surprise there. But everybody's really tipping Yohann Harth to make a step up in 2019. And the biggest surprise is our drivers don't trust Joni Häikkinen's chances. He wasn't even in our top 3. A rookie was ranked over him.
It's very surprising, isn't it? Joni Häikkinen towards the back end of last season was terrifying. Like, he was winning everything. Pole position here, heat race there, feature there. He was closing the gap to de Jong, who everyone thought was going to run away with the championship before round 1 even started. Give de Jong the championship. Häikkinen made him work for it, and I'm very surprised to see him so low, but I'm also not too surprised about Yohann Harth. He is brilliant in these Rallycross cars, and in the off-season in particular, he has been going ham with these cars. I think he's got the highest I rating in anyone for dirt road at the moment, and his win percentage is crazy as well. So for Mitchell, if he's going to defend that championship, which 42.9% of people think he will, he's going to have to work for it.
Yeah, and I think with Yohann, he has about 1,300 races up his belt now in comparison to 12 months ago. So he's definitely more experienced. And I felt Johann's issue was last year was, I think out of the top, I'm looking at the results from last year, out of the top 10 in the series, he had the most DNFs to his name by far. Like, it wasn't even close. So he just found himself in a lot of trouble. And I remember that race at Sonoma where he had a brilliant battle with Chepilevski, but he did also like barge his way past a lot of drivers at the same time. And I feel like we're going to see a more improved Yohann Harth where he doesn't find himself in all that trouble too easily this time.
Yeah, I think he goes into this season a lot more experienced. He knows his racecraft better, and he's just an all-round more complete driver, whereas last season he was probably eager to prove a point in many respects. He, wanted to prove that he was one of the top Rallycross guys. He could mix it with the best, and a couple of times just was a little bit too forceful in where he would make those passes, and Joker overtakes. I remember at one point he even created himself a bit of a meme because he just ended up on his roof so many times. He was nicknamed the Turtle or something.
The rolling turtle.
The rolling turtle. There we go. So for Yohann, he'll be very, very strong this season, I'm sure.
Okay, new guest, Josh Fox. It's been a while since I spoke to you, mate. You are now a Williams Esports driver after a tremendous Rallycross season. I want to know how that deal all got made.
Sure. So after the Rallycross World Championship, obviously ended up pretty strong in there with the 3rd place finish in the standings. And Williams Esports was relatively new. They were kind of starting up in the middle of last year throughout that World Championship. Yeah. So they were looking to grow and expand into other iRacing World Championships. And so we got connected actually through a friend of mine who runs the Peak side of things. And so we had some discussion and gave some background, and they were interested in the background and the potential for the success in upcoming World Championship Series. So we made a deal and signed with them in January, and currently competing in a Dirt Oval World Championship for them as well right now. Getting ready for the iRacing Rallycross World Championship now too.
So do you have any teammates for the Rallycross Championship? Because that's the big deal for me is do you have teammates helping you with setup, which is always a big deal, testing for different tracks? I know you're experienced, but I mean, you know how much teamwork helps.
Sure thing, and that's honestly one thing I'm missing a little bit. There was one member of the team who does some dirt rally stuff that talked about trying to do it with some personal stuff that came up, was not able to commit to the qualifier. So it is just me representing Williams. But I still have a lot of great friends that I've made over, the course of the last year and a half or so. Steliyan and I are super close. I've been friends with Jon for a long time as well, Jon Robertson. Bunch of great guys. So I'll never have any trouble finding people to test with or practice with. It's more of just taking the time and getting on there to do it myself. But that said, at my old team, I ran pretty much my own setups all the time anyway. So it is helpful to tune sometimes, but everyone drives for their own unique style and tunes for it. So I don't think I'm losing anything on that. but the testing and developing different track states to mirror what you might find in the World Championship is certainly helpful and something I should be getting into here in the next few days.
We spoke to Cheppy before you, and off air, I promise, I don't know if he said it on air or off air, but he told me he missed you.
It is mutual. We haven't spent as much time together this summer as we did back in the World Championship last year, but yeah, it's super fun hanging with those guys and racing with those guys. I miss it a lot, and I can't wait to get started with them going wheel to wheel once again.
I feel like with the teammate dilemma, I think you'll be all right, to be honest with you. Like you can't. We've seen past in other world championships like a privateer, and you're technically like a one-man team in a way where you're like a privateer. You're the only person who's doing the world championship in your team. But we've seen other teams allow, let's say, you go over to Coanda and you're able to test with Coanda all season, and they don't mind. Do you think you're going to contact any teams to do that, or do you think you don't need to rely on that kind of stuff?
I don't know if there will be any formal, offer or invitation or any request by me to one of the teams. But like I said, I'm super close with a bunch of the guys, and there's some hosted practices that go up that are for just the general guys in the World Championship roster. They don't restrict it based on team or anything. And I think everyone is super eager to get on the track to see how we stack up against each other. So no worry, no concern to find people to practice with or run with, just maybe not discuss as much of the setup side of things with them.
So you're going to reveal any plans on what car you're going to run for the season, or are you going to keep that under the wraps for now?
No surprises here. I think I stuck with the Subaru the last 7 or 6 or 7 rounds last year. And I just love that car. I love it a lot, the way it drives and the way it torques up real well. And so there's no surprise there. I've got a beautiful Williams Esports livery. Looks a lot like some of their GT cars and other cars you see around. So I'll be putting up some photos from that and some other stuff here in the next few days. But it is stunningly beautiful. I can't wait for it to get on the track.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. And I remember, so you won the Lucas Oil race in the Subaru, but what car did you run before that?
I was sticking with the Beetle for the beginning part of the season.
Yeah.
Until you see Mitchell, he got in it right away, and he was pretty fast in it right away. And it took me a little bit of time to get used to it and figure out how to tune it up the right way.
Yeah.
But once I got it in my platform, standard kind of program I use for my setup, I love it. I can't go back to anything else now.
All right, I'm going to leave you to it, and we're going to do a full podcast one day. And unfortunately, we couldn't get a video feed for you this time around, but we're going to do one soon enough, hopefully after a few race wins. And if you're even lucky enough this season, a world championship possibly for yourself. How does that sound?
Oh, that's the plan. That's why we're here. But make no mistake, it's a much deeper talent pool, I think, this time around. Probably more than double what it was last year.
Yeah.
And it's going to be intense just to make the feature, I feel like, in some of these events. So obviously a lot of expectation based on the results last year, but really excited at the same time, and definitely working hard for it, and should be a great season. Really looking forward to it.
Do you think Josh Fox can win a world championship?
Josh Fox will be up there. He will really be up there. I think he'll get more feature race wins this season, but whether or not he can challenge for the title, I'm going to say the jury's still out for me.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for Josh Fox, who I think is probably one of the most underrated drivers in the field. The funny thing is, when you think about Joni Häkkänen's career, is I always think to Mikko Hirvonen, and I was like, is his career going to end up like Mikko Hirvonen, where he finished second and third and never got that WRC title?
I hope you're not putting the commentator's curse there, but it is possible. I mean, for Mikko, he came so close so many times, and I mean, let's just hope it's not the same way for all of the Finns, but I mean, there's only one way to find out, and I think if there is going to be a resurgent from Joni Häkkinen this season, I think he will make sure he's not the Mikko Hirvonen of sim racing and rallycross.
Yeah, well, when we look at the feature race winners now, a lot of drivers tip that Häkkinen is going to be winning races. He actually matches De Jong there in the results. Yohann Harth up there, of course, at the same time. So everybody really valuing Yohann Harth coming into 2019. But then you look at the drivers listed in the others section, Robertson, Fox, and Chepilevski. So I see 6 names up there, Beau, but there's only 9 races on the calendar.
It's a lot to fit in, isn't there? So how this is all going to play out, we don't quite know. And I think those 2 on 95.2%, we can pretty much lock them away. But for those other 4 in Harth, Robertson, Fox, and Chepilevski, that's going to be very, very tight to see if any of them can get the remaining 7 round victories to their name, because they're all very quick. And we know Robertson and Harth are ridiculously maxed. Chepilevski on his day, no one can really touch him. And Josh Fox is always cunning. He's always able to get that result when he needs it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how those others go in particular. But Yohann Harth, I think of the other 4, might just be the strongest to get that win.
Yeah, I think if I had to allocate 9 wins, you'd give, what, like 3 to De Jong, 2 to Häkkinen, so that's 5 already. And then you've got 4 rounds left, so if you can distribute 1 to Harth, Fox, Chepilevski, and Robertson. See, I don't think that's realistic. I think one of these drivers is going to miss out this season. Like, I think about it, and I'm like, I think those top 3s are definitely De Jong and Häkkinen are locks for a feature race. Yohann Harth, we only seen it once so far, but we'll probably see it again. Robertson is a rookie. Who knows how he's going to fare? But Fox and Chepilevski, I mean, Fox has only won 1 to his name, and Chepilevski, he's yet to win a feature race. I think he's the driver I really want to see on the top step of the podium.
I think a lot would. He's got a decent following. Everyone loves Chepilevski. He's one of those guys in the community that I don't think anyone really dislikes. So everyone would like to see him do well, but I mean, we saw it last season. He got involved in a couple of incidents. We saw him get tangled up in features and just generally have terrible luck. So whether or not that continues on, we hope not, but it is possible. And that's the thing with Rallycross, is the starts do mean so much, and we do see chaos from time to time. So any one of I think all of those drivers on screen can win a feature. It's just whether or not the cards are dealt in their favor or not, because there's so much that happens in Rallycross that even if you're the best on the start, the best in race lap, the best in, the grid slot, all of that, you're not guaranteed any kind of result.
And there was one race in 2018 where we saw it was a 4-horse race for a feature race victory. Only one name ended up on the top step of the podium. Let's revisit that right now. Okay, right on board with Häkkinen, screaming over the jump. Looked like a brilliant view through there. There we rejoin the tarmac section. This is entirely dirt in the long version of Daytona, but through the rest of the racetrack of the long layout. Back onto the back straight. Johnny Häkkinen right on board with him, having a brilliant event so far. Didn't look like it, he didn't take to the Joker that time around, you could tell. Straight lining the final chicane. And out onto the start-finish line yet another time. Lap 9 of 10 begins. Penultimate lap of the event. Will Häkkinen take to the Joker this time round? Will he find himself in the lead with a couple of laps to go? Chepilevski's dropped off the pace though, Randy. That's critical.
He's not dropped back too far. It's only about a 1.5 seconds, but I don't like Steliyan's Joker strategy at all. I think if you're Steliyan, you had to Joker about 4 to 5 laps ago in order to at least get in front of Yoni. Now Yohann Häkkinen, as he goes past the Joker again, he's saving it for the final lap. So we're not going to see a super tight door-to-door fight between Mitchell and Yohann Häkkinen. It's going to be a quick drag race. Gap is down to 1.8 seconds. Can Yoni bring it in anymore? Steliyan still owes us a Joker lap as well, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do better than P3.
This is really important. Down to the final lap of the event. Will Yohann Häkkinen find himself in the lead? Hasn't had the best of final lap so far. He has a Joker up his sleeve. Who will win round 6 of the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series? Drag race to the finish line. Mitchell de Jong slots himself ahead. And it's unclassified at the moment, but it looks like Mitchell de Jong is victor for round 6 of the iRacing Rallycross World Championship Series. The tussle for glory continues between the two. Yohann Häkkinen ends up in second with that final lap Joker. Josh Fox still on the podium. Chepilevski with a Joker on the final lap, only in fourth. Finished very close to Josh Fox in the end. Clamp it in your top 5. What a finish, Randy, from the top 2. Häkkinen just a 1/10 of a second off the win.
Now onto our best qualifier, Beau, and I look at the results here. It's not de Jong, it's not Häkkinen, it's Yohann Harth, And this is why I feel like our driver survey and all the drivers this season think that Yohann Harth is going to take a step up in 2019 is because he struggled in qualifying last year, I felt. Didn't get the best of grid position in the heats and in the features. And if he can sort that out for himself this year, he may get a few feature race wins under his belt as a result.
He definitely could, and he's been so quick. He did not have to do the pro qualifying series. He made it through from last season. He decided to do the pro qualifying races anyway, and he was qualifying right at the top of all these guys. When you had Robertson in there, you had Adrian Perez, who was brutally quick as well, and Harth could still just every time bang out a qualifying lap, get that car in the number 1 seed on the grid slot. So he's got the qualifying pace for sure. Of course, Pro Series and WCS is a very different thing. So whether that translates, I'm not sure. But if anyone's going to do it for, consistent pole positions in this field, I have to agree with that result. I think 38.1% for Yohann Harth. I think that's a pretty nice figure for him to have.
Yeah, exactly. So the grid position's ever so important. We go to our next results, and that's the breakout year. God, this is the Yohann Harth preview show right now when we look at that. More than half the drivers think he's going to have a breakthrough year, but it's good to see that we have some different names up there. Zelensky and Clampett join him.
Yeah, of course, they both returned from last season as well, so I'm not surprised to see them perhaps having their breakout year this time around. But to see the percentages is pretty insane for 52.4% for Yohann. We know he's quick, and I don't know if you can really call it a breakout because he wasn't exactly in the middle of nowhere last season, but in terms of getting a lot more results, he's definitely stronger this season. Zelensky had a couple of good showings as well. I believe he might have got the odd podium or two. And Logan Clampett is always quick in anything he drives, whether it's a NASCAR peak antifreeze car or a Rallycross VW. He knows what to do. So again, I have to agree with the polls. I think they're pretty suitable responses at the moment.
That was one podium for Zelensky last year. Think it's going to be more this season, and the move to Coanda this time, Beau. So not only is he involved in one of the best cultures in sim racing for a team, but he gets all this access to Mitchell de Jong data and VRS data.
Yeah, that's going to be so helpful to be able to see how de Jong does it, where he's finding those micro tenths of a second here and there on the track, where he uses extra millimeters of the road. So that will help Zelensky quite a bit, but I don't know how Coanda are really working as a Rallycross team, because I remember last season you had de Jong, who was so often in the Subaru, but then you had Jorn Jens in there as well. He was happy in his Fiesta, so they weren't really, working together. They didn't have that team synergy.
Good point,
working
yeah.
on the one setup. So I'm interested to see if Zelensky follows de Jong's lead and goes to the same car, or if Zelensky just chooses to stick to what he knows, because I believe last season, quite dominant for him in terms of race starts in the VW.
Yeah, the VW was what Zelensky ran, I'm pretty sure, all 11 rounds last year. So that was a car of choice for him in that Slip-Bangle Motorsports machine. For Logan Clampett, who is tipped as our third driver to most likely have a breakout year. I think I phrased that correctly. I remember his issues in the opening rounds were that he kept heading to the consolation races. So then, do you find that as an issue as a Rallycross driver where you don't get a good grid position for the feature race and you start like 5th, 6th, all the way down to 10th, and you just can't get some good points for yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also a confidence thing. If you find yourself going to the consolation every single round, it's going to knock your confidence. You're going to wonder, am I actually able to get these big results in the finals if I make the feature at all? And I think Clampett dealt with that really well. He eventually bounced back. He did make his way into the features legitimately on many of occasions without going through the consolation. So I think he just needs to stay out of trouble, because I do think in those early heats, it wasn't the pace that let him down and put him in the consolations. It was just little incidents, getting involved in a scrap here, a crash there, which did hurt him quite a bit. So I think for a breakout year, he'll be a lot stronger this season. I don't know if he's going to be winning races or competing up the front, but he'll be an improver for sure.
And then Rookie of the Year, no surprise really, Jon Robertson, more than half the votes by our driver survey. Sami Matti Trogan, now he didn't actually go, I don't think he went through the Pro Series, Beau. He's a wildcard entry, a young Finnish Rallycross driver. And he's like, if you watch like the NBA draft and you have that international prospect, like you go back to 2013 and no one really new Giannis, and they're thinking, oh, should we draft Giannis in the top 3? And he ended up going mid-first round. And I feel like that's what's happening with Sami Trogan. You know, he's tipped to be Rookie of the Year, the second highest votes, but we haven't seen much of him on iRacing.
No, and I do remember that name quite clearly because I remember because he was competing for Set Esports at the time. I'm not sure if he still is, but he was running in the Formula 3.5, so he's clearly a bit of a master of all trades. Doesn't mind, you know, dabbling in a few things, but like you mentioned, he does have real world experience when it comes to the Rallycross. So this should, in theory, be his bread and butter. But I'm surprised to see him, you know, so high up because if we look further down as well, you have on 10.5% Bobby Sant Jr., Kevin Carlisle, and Adria Perez. They're terrifying names. I raced against them in the Pro Series. They're all quick. They're all competitive, especially Adria Perez and Kevin Carlisle. I rate those two in particular really, really strong. So, see Sami Trogan above them two. I mean, he's clearly got some fans. He's clearly got some support as well.
Yeah, I know. I'm having to think now. Did he sort of did they manipulate this survey a little bit? Because there were ways
Build
you
the
could
hype.
vote for yourself and maybe, you know, get yourself some votes. But I mean, he's still probably talented, is Sami Trogan. So let's see how he goes. But Kevin Carlisle and Perez, as you said, two very strong drivers that are going to definitely impress. Would be very interesting to see whether or not they could snag a few podiums for themselves. But finally, we're going to speak to one of these drivers who was very highly tipped for Rookie of the Year. Well, here's our next guest, Jon Robertson, who, John, you're basically the #1 draft pick coming out of the Pro Series right now. You dominated the series itself. Your peers, as we can see in the driver surveys, have tipped you quite well. They've tipped you for Rookie of the Year. You're even ranked 3rd on the list of potential 2019 champions. How does that feel?
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, coming into it, we were quite confident, but we really weren't expecting to do quite as well as we did in the Pro Series. So going into the World Championship Series, we're kind of on a high right now. Hopefully we can carry that forwards through the whole championship.
Do you think starting World Championship Rallycross a year after everybody else, do you feel like you're going to have a year's less of knowledge, or do you think the Apex Racing team that obviously we can announce that you're racing with for the season, do you think they're going to be really filling you in on the knowledge that you need for the series? We know Chepilevski is an awesome teammate to have. He's been doing rally for over a decade. So do you think you'll be filled in on that lack of knowledge that you haven't had for a year?
I've certainly got less experience. Obviously, with World Championship events, the track is so different compared to what you're normally used to in the official races. So that's really going to be what I need to get used to quickly. But we've been doing lots of practicing recently, so I'm confident I'm going to be able to get up to speed enough to be competitive in the first few rounds.
I'm seriously looking forward to seeing how you go, because I'm looking at the list now from the driver surveys. I mean, so you're 3rd on the list for champion, like we said. You're one of very few drivers that have been tipped to win feature races that have gotten majority of votes, basically. You're pretty much up there to finish top 3 to top 5 for the season. Do you think you can get it done, or do you think you're going to struggle the first few rounds just shaking the nerves off? Do you feel those nerves for the moment?
I'm definitely quite nervous going into the first rounds. Really, my only goal is to keep the license for next year, because I'd hate to have to requalify. But,
don't say that. You're going to keep the license.
But yeah, I mean, top 5 would be amazing, and I really feel like it's achievable. Even top 3, I feel like it's achievable, and the championship win, really, like, it's going to come down to a little bit of luck. So even that is on the tables, I think. Just kind of, it depends. I've just got to be there, be at the front, and then maybe everything will fall into place.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, there are some tracks like we talked about Lucas Oil Raceway being like the Monte Carlo street circuit of Rallycross for us, and how if the leaders all collide as they bottleneck into the first braking zone, and let's say you qualify 3rd or 4th and you're there 3rd or 4th on the grid for the feature race, you could end up with your first win. That's what happened to Josh Fox last year.
Yeah, I mean, that track is crazy. There's no way that we're going to get through there without some kind of incident. But yeah, it's really just being at the front, trying to stay out of trouble. obviously everyone, we've got Yohann, Mitchell, Josh, Cheppy, everyone's going to be quick. So it's just going to come down to who can be the cleanest, who can be the most consistent.
When I was a rookie back in World Championship sim racing many years ago, I didn't have the mentality that I have now, like this killer mentality that I want to, that Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc type mentality where you just want to basically get on the racetrack and just beat everybody, kill everybody out there on the racetrack, obviously in terms of competition, and just do your best. And I was always nervous. I was always thinking, I don't want to make this mistake. Are you going to approach it with the killer mentality or the mentality where you don't want to make any mistakes? You just want to get through the first rounds cleanly?
I'm definitely going to approach the first rounds trying to be as clean as possible. I don't want to start taking people out or getting penalty points or anything. I just want to sort of settle into the championship and then see where I am and go from there.
All right. Can I also ask as well, have you watched much of the 2018 championship?
Yeah, I've watched all of it in 2018 and I've gone back and watched some of the rounds again. Just to kind of see what the racing was like.
Which ones have you liked the most?
Phoenix was definitely a good one, with Yohann taking the win.
Yeah, the second time at Phoenix, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty eventful. Sonoma was good as well, with the long dirt turns. It really provides some good overtaking.
Yes.
I think... Yeah, no, I think the... Fuck.
Which round? What's this? What's going on?
I've forgotten which round I'm thinking about.
Iowa.
Was it
Lucas
Iowa?
Oil.
Lucas Oil is going to be terrible. That's just going to be a crash fest.
Oh, well, the drivers have said that in the surveys. Let me tell you that much. Even I think Lucas Oil is not going to be a fun round. But the long straight anyway is pretty cool. Like I find the starts at Lucas Oil very entertaining. I don't know why the drivers are selling the circuit so short.
I mean, it's good to watch, but to drive in, it's horrible. That's really how it goes. Like, the worse it is to drive, the better it is to watch, I guess.
Well,
but
maybe.
I think Iowa was a good one with the Joker as well. That was one I was trying to think of.
Is that the one with
The
Garrett
Joker-
Lowe?
Yeah, the Joker Delta's so big. Garrett Lowe just managed to overtake the whole field.
Yeah. We just watched
That
that
was
earlier
amazing.
in the show with Beau and I were previewing the show earlier, and we managed to watch that. All the viewers have seen that already by the time this plays. So this is, I mean, that Joker is absolutely incredible. I think it's an 11-second delta time. And
Yeah,
I
something
feel
like that.
Say it again?
Something like that, yeah. 11 or 13 seconds.
Yeah. Depends how quick you are. Mate, if it's me, it's 27-second delta, I need to up my rallycross skills. But finally, can we let you go? I have to ask, going into the calendar, any rounds you set your sights on your potential first feature race victory, or do you not want to be thinking about that kind of stuff too early?
I'm definitely confident for Daytona Short. I know I'm quick there, especially in qualifying, and that's kind of what matters around that track. I think also Sonoma. I'm quite strong in the feature races when it gets worn down.
And
So
there's
I'd say
two Sonoma tracks.
Yeah?
Two Sonoma rounds, I should say, sorry. Two Sonoma rounds. So,
I didn't realise.
Yeah, round 3 and round 7. You don't even know the calendar yet, and I do. Jeez.
No.
I'm not even in
We've
the
been focusing on round
forums.
1. I've just been focusing on round 1.
Well, good. I mean, round 1 is at Atlanta. Atlanta is a track where you're going to be on equal playing field with all the other drivers because none of them have competed there at World Championship level. So this is a new track for the entire field. So that's going to play to your benefit to begin the season.
Yeah, it should do. So far in testing, it looks pretty good. We're all pretty equal. But really, the starts are going to be pretty hectic again, I think, around there. With such a tight right-hander going into the dirt straight away. So really going to be about survival again around that track.
Finally, can we let you go now? But good luck for round number 1 this week.
Thank you.
At Atlanta. Looking forward to it. And we're going to do a full podcast soon throughout the year, hopefully celebrating your first feature race victory. How about that?
Hopefully. That would be awesome.
So that was Jon Robertson, who is looking to have a brilliant start to his iRacing Rallycross World Championship career. But now we look at your most underrated drivers that were voted amongst our peers for 2019. And Nathan Lyonbo is at the top of the list. I'm very surprised as well that Michael Guest doesn't join him at the top of the list, because I believe Michael Guest is an insane talent himself.
I mean, he had some great results, didn't he, last season? He was always quick. He made some decent moves, and he was up towards the front in his odd few rounds. Perhaps not too consistently, but he still had, consistently scoring points and doing what he needed to do. But Nathan Lyon, perhaps shared that name as well, and perhaps just didn't get the results he needed consistently, but I think deserves that underrated tag quite nicely. He was very good and, did exactly what he had to do when required in the series. But looking down as well, you have two other names as well, with Hallman and Matthew Madigan as well. And I think Matthew Madigan could be one of the more underrated drivers on this list. Yeah. And if I were to vote in this, I would probably put him at number 1.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to look out for Matthew Madigan. So why isn't he Rookie of the Year then?
Perhaps that is because he's underrated. Bam! Throw it back and to what we're voting on. But Matthew Madigan, though, just very underrated, I think, because he was 6 months ago perhaps not one of those guys you would rate as in the top group of iRacing Rallycross drivers, but the leaps and bounds he's made at the start before Pro Series and then during Pro Series with the Converge Motorsports guys, he is just fantastic now. And I saw a couple of times in Pro Series where he would get good results and would finish in the top group. Didn't quite get recognized for that. He just wasn't really mentioned as, oh, that was a good drive from Matthew. It was just more fly under the radar. So I would put Matthew at that reason for number 1. And I believe he's entering this season as his own team under Matthew Madigan Racing or something along that lines. So I think he's a pretty big underdog and very much underrated.
Nathan Lyon also had 8 DNFs last year to his name. So if you can sort that out, I feel like that's a reason why drivers underrate him, because he's not really, didn't even finish top 10 in the championship standing. So I feel like if he sorts out his did not finish issues and gets himself out of trouble, he'll be able to claim a good haul of points for himself. But nevertheless, we're going to switch over and look at your cars for our 2019 season. They, of course, include the same cars from 2018, the Beetle, the Fiesta, and the Subaru Sexy Rexy, Beau, as someone once told me many, many years ago, but I don't think I'll ever use that again. But it's...
Please, no.
3 cars that, you can see the Beetle and Fiesta are quite similar. The Subaru is the one that makes this a lot more interesting, but when you look at the driver's preference, the drivers seem to love that Subaru. Why is that?
I've got to agree with them. I've got to go with the Subaru as well. And I mean, it is tough to know why we all pick it. It's just a very balanced car. It's stable. And you can just position it really nicely in corners. With the VW and the Fiesta, they tend to roll quite a lot in corners, especially the Beetle. Like, you can really feel the weight transfer on the car, the load going through the tires. The Subaru, it's a bit more gradual. You can just pin it into the corners a bit nicer. And it's not as floaty, so you can just really make it work. And the longer wheelbase on the gravel does work really, really nicely. So on the gravel, it's very quick. And hey, Rallycross, you've got to be quick on both the tarmac and the gravel. So that could be why the main majority of drivers do go for the Subaru. But I think if you do end up counting out the Ford and the VW, you're just fooling yourself, because they're 2 very quick cars as well.
Yep, exactly. And you can read there at the bottom right, there's a lot of discussion and consensus amongst the teams and drivers where the Subaru seems to be quickest on that green track, but when the track is worn in the feature race, it seems to fall off. So I try and think, okay, if the Fiesta is quick in feature conditions, let's say you're Mitchell de Jong, right, Beau, and you might as well give up those 0.3 per lap in the Fiesta during qualifying. Hopefully you can make it up using talent, so you'll still qualify at least in the top 3. And then come the feature race, you'll be unstoppable. So why don't these drivers run the Fiesta more? It's the least preferred car.
The reason why they won't do that is simply because if you get yourself in the mid-pack, there's so much more chance of getting involved in a crash, getting caught up in incidents, and not only that, you're going to get yourself lower grid positions for the consolation if you get put through that way. If you get put into the feature, you're going to be in a lower grid position. So being quick in the feature is all well and good, but if you have to overtake 8 cars to make any kind of progress in the feature, you're just not going to have enough laps, because Rallycross is short and sharp. You need to be at the front, you need to be competitive, and even though the Subaru isn't as quick in the feature, it's going to be the best chance of being on that front row for the feature.
Well, we saw a lot of interesting battles throughout 2018, and here's one that included our next guest. Exactly that. Heading through, look at Harth as well, now battling with Chepilevski. Contact between the two as well. Harth's an angry dude at the moment, and Chepilevski shoved out of the way. The ever flamboyant Steliyan Chepilevski, who has also had a good campaign in the Rallycross World Championship Series. He's someone, Randy, I think, if I had to tip a new race winner, we could be looking at Chepilevski sometime soon in these final few rounds if he gets things together.
He's just been struggling. It's not even been struggling. He's had pace, about half the races or so this season, maybe 3/4, but he's just not had the luck when it's important as he takes to the Joker and shuffles out behind Logan Clampett as he goes screaming up the hill. And that's really been the problem for Steliyan, is that when he's had the speed, he's not had the fortune, and when he's had a little bit of fortune, he's just not had the speed. Yeah, he's been a little bit erratic. Closest battle is, of course, Chepilevski and Yohann Harth, which is what we're looking at on our cameras. Everything else is separated out to about 2 seconds or so, if not more, as these two are going to go through this kind of final corner and then up and over the jump. And that race clutch car is just trying to stay close to that Vision racing machine of Steliyan Chepilevski as they're about to head up the hill for the 7th time.
Oh, shoves Chepilevski out of the way. Harth, no respect for Steliyan up ahead, and Harth barges his way through. The race clutch driver now in the 5th position. Chepilevski has a bit of a bit of track position ahead of Bobby Zelensky, but just Randy, I mean, we speak about that right there. Just, the driving standards today haven't been the best, of course. Through what is really the first corner of the racetrack, but isn't really as well. Look at the battle up ahead, though. Chepilevski and Yohann Harth. Chepilevski now back ahead of the Frenchman, and they're still alongside each other here heading into the first corner. Lap 9 of 10. Harth going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving by Yohann Harth. Chepilevski now another switchback. We're doing S2S snake driving at the moment, and Chepilevski in the 5th position.
That was very well executed by both of them, I have to say. But unfortunately, this aggression has reeled in Georgi Zadzan and Bobby Zelensky. So while these two were like, okay, we'll fight it out for 7th and 8th, now suddenly they're potentially looking at a top 5 if these two don't stop pulling punches, or excuse me, if they don't start pulling punches, as Joni Heikkinen starts his final lap. Matter of fact, Zelensky takes to the Joker. He can jump 3 cars right here.
Smart by Bobby Zelensky. Important points, and he should have a top 5 finish. Here he is, Yohann Harth, the man who we just watched go to work against Cheppy, who is now your teammate this year. He's one of the most awesome teammates to have in Rallycross. What impact has he had to your team this season?
He had a huge impact this season, to be honest, because last year I was pretty much working on my own. I had Thomas to help me a bit, but it wasn't on all the time. But this year, since I joined Apex Racing in March, it was in March, we worked pretty well together, and yeah, it has a huge impact.
And we saw earlier in the show, a lot of your peers and a lot of the drivers racing against you, they're all tipping you for a breakout season. Is that because you've had such a big improvement in sim racing over the past year, or do you think it's you just devoted so much time to racing Rallycross that your skills have just improved from all the time you spent sim racing?
I'd say it's just because I spent a bit more time than the others in Rallycross in general, because I think I'm the only one in the top 5 that kept racing Rallycross the whole year, basically.
But you also, you're quick in any car. Remember we had a race once. I remember I came back. It was my first race in, over 12 months. And we had the IndyCar race.
Yeah, we had the IndyCar race in the Oval, was it?
Yeah, Indy Fix. And even in Indy Fix, you're bloody taking pole positions and race wins.
Well, I don't know.
And then F3.5 the other week, remember at Monza? You just came in, we're in the practice session. I didn't race though, but then
I practiced a lot.
Okay, you practiced for that one. But then so I wouldn't want to know as a driver as well, how do you improve at driving skills? Is it just more time and muscle memory for improvement, or do you think your knowledge has improved the more you spend time in the cockpit?
I would say muscle memory is really important. Not in terms of pure speed, but just consistency and your sit time. Sit time is really what gives you extra 1 or 2 tenths compared to the others that just do 1 or 2 hours every once in a week.
Yeah, because I remember whenever I compared my telemetry to the top guys, sometimes in the middle of, let's take Ascari for example at Monza. If I was like 3 kilometers an hour slower through the apex of Ascari, I take the same lines as your Hutus and your Cronques, but that 3 kilometers an hour is like what? I don't know how much that is, maybe a tenth of a second down the entire straight. And I think it's the quicker you get, it's harder to get better. It's just about those little fine lines and those fine differences. Is that the same with Rallycross now? Is that do you look for minimum speed traces when you drive, or do you look for lines? Like, what's really the key to being quick in a Rallycross car?
Mistakes in Rallycross can cost you a lot of time. Like, small mistake in the dirt, that's immediately 1 or 2 tenths. So yeah, look at all the replays. That's what we did with Kevin yesterday. He found like 2 or 3 tenths just in one corner. Just watching me taking a corner the way I was taking it. It was like Africa weights off on the right, and just going closer to the wall, he gained immediately 1 or 2 tenths. That's crazy how much time you can gain if you watch all the replays.
You're talking about Kevin Carlisle, obviously, your Apex teammate. Yeah, rookie coming into the series, everybody. Of course, we previewed him earlier. The thing I find with that is, I'm assuming that's for Atlanta long. I'm assuming you're testing for round 1.
Atlanta long.
Yes. Maybe Kevin Carlisle, if he's matching your pace, he could win the feature race for round 1. Who knows?
Why not? He's pretty quick.
Yeah.
He's bloody quick at Atlanta long.
We've had, I think, what is it now? You're the 3rd Apex driver now on this podcast.
Yeah.
People are going to think I'm biased for Apex. What's going on? I didn't even realize the other day, right? I knew you were all racing for Apex. And then when I was organizing the podcast, I think it was just a coincidence. I sort of got you 3 to come on, and you're all Apex drivers, you know?
And not my fault if nobody want to talk with you.
Well, anyway, round 1, Atlanta. Everybody loves Atlanta, I assume. Are you looking forward to that track? And if you are, what other tracks are you looking forward to on the calendar?
I'm really looking forward to Atlanta because I think it's one of the most interesting tracks. Because it has that long delta joker. Like Iowa. Yeah. I think Iowa is the only one. Yeah, Iowa, of course.
Iowa and Atlanta, yeah.
Atlanta's short and long. I'm really looking forward as well to Phoenix, where I won last year.
Yes.
And yeah, Iowa as well. I didn't do really well last year at Iowa because I didn't qualify for the feature for both rounds.
Oh, really?
I didn't qualify for the feature both rounds.
I didn't know that. I like study this series more than anybody else. Wow.
I missed 3 features, I think, in the middle of the season.
Did you, by the way, win at Phoenix in the Fiesta or the Subaru?
No, I was with the Subaru.
Okay. So do you think that switch helped you?
I don't know, to be honest, because depends on the track conditions, really, because on fresh track, the Subaru has a huge edge on all the other cars, but once it gets worse, they're pretty even. So, I don't think it really helped me. I could have won with the Fiesta as well at the beginning of the season. I think it was round 2 when I was battling with Mitchell.
Which round was this, sorry?
Round 2 at Lucas Oil.
Yeah.
What Lucas Oil was Lucas Oil.
But so when you ran the Fiesta for most of the year, what made you switch over to the Subaru? Because you figured out that the Subaru was probably the better car to run?
I switched to Subaru for round 7 at Lucas Oil. That's just because I wanted to try the car. I was trying it like 1 hour before the race, and I thought I was faster than with the Fiesta, so I immediately switched.
Do the setups interchange, obviously, right?
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Are you looking forward to seeing which drivers run which car? I feel like that's something that you'd be sort of looking into, because I think a lot of people are going to run the Subaru, but then
Yeah.
what happens if round one, Mitchell de Jong comes in, who just won the championship in the Subaru, and all of a sudden he's in the Ford Fiesta, and everyone goes, oh, what the hell? Have I made the wrong decision? Like, everyone's confused. Like, it's going to be chaotic if he does that.
I'd be surprised if he's in the Fiesta, to be honest. But yeah, I don't think that many people won't run the Subaru because it's obviously the best car. I think there's only like 5 or 6 drivers that are gonna go for either the Beetle or the Fiesta. I know that Yoni isn't going for the Beetle this year. I've seen him practicing. I've seen him practice with the Subaru a lot, and I think he's going with it.
Mm. And I also found last year that you, obviously you're a bit obviously you're a rookie to the series. Everybody was, but you were involved in a lot of incidents, a lot of argy-bargy. We just saw you battle away with Chepilevski, and half the time you were just shoving him out of the racetrack and that kind of stuff. But do you think this year you're going to be a little bit more mature in terms of racecraft?
Yeah.
You have that experience where you're going to get out of trouble?
Yeah, I think experience is gonna help me a lot because that was a rookie year for me. That was the first time in World Championship, and I was doing dumb mistakes pretty much all the time.
So does that mean you're going to win the World Championship?
Why not? I hope so. I hope I'll be fighting for the championship.
Now on to our betting markets, Beau, at Fake
The best part?
I tried to say it without laughing, man, but I couldn't. Champion now, first up. Mitchell de Jong, 2-1. I like the odds of that. I like it. Yohann Harth. Vegas seems to favor Yohann Harth a lot better. Any surprises to you?
Nothing so far. I mean, de Jong, of course, is always going to have strong odds. Harkonnen, I mean, if I was a betting man, I would definitely be putting some money that way. 4-1 sounds good to me.
Yes.
But Yohann Harth, 9-1 as well. I mean, there'll be a few punters out there who's definitely going for that one, I think.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. You know what? I wouldn't mind putting a few hundred on Yohann Harth because I'm a little, as I say, I'm not an avid gambler, but I think after the Singapore Grand Prix, I think I put Lewis for pole, win, and podium. And as you can tell, I did not receive any accolades for that at all. Good to see Zelensky and Clampett getting credited for their, 49-1, but at least they're on this list. There's a few drivers who aren't even on there. You look at feature race winner. Now, I removed, I think Vegas, though. Sorry, not me. Vegas, I gave it away. Vegas has removed the definites. So the names I don't see are de Jong, Harkonnen, Harth, and that's it. So I think those three are pretty much guaranteed to win a feature race. Josh Fox at 4-1. They're selling Chepilevski short here. 14-1. Come on.
If they're selling Chepilevski short on 14-1, how's Jon Robertson 16-1?
Ooh.
I mean, you said before you were putting a few hundreds on Harth for that one. I'm putting a few thousand on Robertson. I think he's going to be seriously strong, and I think also a surprise championship contender as well. So for him just to be that low on race wins, mate, I'm putting some money down for sure.
Yeah, the Marc Marquez of 2019 here. Can he win it in his rookie campaign? Jon Robertson. I'm putting my whole house on 16-1 as a feature race winner. I
thought you said you weren't a betting man.
Well, we'll see how we go. You know, in 9 weeks' time, I may have to move in with you over at the Albert residence.
Oh no!
Touch wood. Well, I mean, I wouldn't mind living with you, but I want my house at the same time. Anyway. Harth versus Fox. This is a very interesting one because this is obviously based on the championship at the end of the day. Who's going to end out on top of who at the end of 9 rounds? For the Frenchman, he's paying $1.45, but $2.01 for Josh Fox, who actually finished above Harth last season.
Yeah, he did, and I mean, I actually think that could be a much closer run race than we might think because Fake Vegas Vet's obviously thinking that Yohann has the advantage, but last season, we saw him get a lot of DNFs. We saw him get involved in incidents. So if he hasn't really changed his ways, Josh Fox on $2.01, it's not half bad, and he could be in with a pretty decent shout to finish ahead for a second year in a row.
Yes, and then Rookie of the Year. I mean that's too obvious, Like I know it's not the best odds at 2-1, but I feel like you almost, if you put any money on Jon Robertson. He's going to win it. Again, Sami Trogan above Carlisle. And Taskinen's up there. Sant Jr. Are we forgetting a big name here as well? Adria Perez?
I think we are. He was brutally quick in his Volkswagen and Pro qualifiers, so to see him out of the contention there for MSI Esports, that's the betting market's letting us down, I think, and if he is in fact lower down that list and just not shown on this graphic, then well, I might put my house up for sale as well, because that is a massive chance of Rookie of the Year, and I think he will upset a couple of drivers this season if they count him out too early.
Yep, and then Jon Robertson to be champion by 2022. So that means he's got 2019, 2021, so
3
4
seasons.
years to do it. That's pretty good odds again.
No,
Bro, we're going to be rich, mate. This
there we
is
go.
Awesome.
We're moving up in the world. We're going to be able to have the best hotel in Melbourne. We're working our way up. The Simon Racing podcast and me tagging along, I'm okay with this.
Yes, and then the final one is the Joni Heikkinen words, pretty much for the entire season. Over unders 3.5. I'm going under on this, and that is a lock for me.
Yeah, I'm going under as well. I think 3.5. It's a bit too hard. I think the fake Vegas bets has been a little bit optimistic here, and 3.5 words just
okay.
It's not happening.
Now, I remember my first interview with him last year. I was like I asked some pretty good questions, I think, and then it was like I felt the interview went so poorly, and I thought he hated it. And then when the interview finished, it was so short. I thought Joni hated it. I thought he was annoyed. And I was like, oh my God, that was like, I literally almost dropped a lot of confidence. And then he messaged me straight after the interview going, hey, awesome interview. Great job. See you next round. Loved it. Thank you. Bye. And I was like, holy shit, it actually went well.
That's incredible, but that's just like typical Finn, isn't it? Like, they do not like to talk all too much, but they do all their talking on the track. They are brutally quick when it comes to rallycross and just any form of racing. So, I mean, who needs interviews when you do have races like that?
Yeah, exactly. So, Joni Heikkinen, tremendous fellow, of course, too. He, look forward to seeing him in hopefully all 9 rounds for an interview this season. So don't let round 1 deceive you, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up here, because I feel, Beau, that a lot of, I call them like season maniacs, where they test incredibly hard for round 1, but sim racing's all about the entire campaign here for these next few months. It's not just about this first round at Atlanta.
And we see that a lot, don't we, where drivers will put so much effort into round 1, it doesn't quite go their way, and they fall off for the rest of the season. And then you can have people like Georges Zajon who don't even make the, pro qualifying cut in the end to retain their license, because of that in the end. So I think for these guys, if they can just keep the pressure up, we're in for a fantastic season. And I don't think you want to be missing this year's Rallycross Championship, because I think it's going to be bigger, better, and just all around more competitive.
Nope, exactly it. And that 2019 Thrustmaster iRacing Rallycross World Championship will commence on the 5th of October. And we head to the Atlanta Motor Speedway. For the first time in the series, coverage will begin at 5:45 p.m. GMT, 3:45 a.m. for myself and Beau. I'm still not ready for it, but I'll try and warm myself up to it. That will be on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Anything to plug, Beau, before we go?
I'll just quickly plug my Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube as well. That's AE_Beau Albert 06. I've only recently started streaming, so if you guys could follow me there, that would be absolutely fantastic on Twitch. And hopefully see you guys all there. And as well, a shout out to my team, of course, Logitech G Altus Esports. Great support always, and happy to represent their sponsors as well.
Yep, awesome. So catch Beau there, of course. His Twitter handle's been there the entire preview show, so if you haven't followed him already, I'm pretty disappointed in you, ladies and gentlemen. Give him a follow. He's an awesome follow. I think I was sold on your Twitter account when you posted that 71-degree track temp the other week. What track was that?
That was absolutely savage. That was at Bathurst, and it wasn't actually me. It was a friend of mine who posted that, and I just had to get it on Twitter because iRacing, what are you doing? 71 is insane. And it's safe to say, if you rolled out of the pit lane, your tires would be lasting about 1 quarter max.
Finally, thanks to RaceSpot TV and the iRacing, just iRacing in general. I was about to say the Esports Network. It's muscle memory. Thanks to them for allowing us to display footage of last year's events throughout the preview show. Hope you enjoyed it. You can catch future episodes or even in the past on the Simon Racing Report.com. You can find a link to the YouTube channel, iTunes, Stitcher. We're on Spotify now, of course, too, in 2019. It's all on the homepage. Grab the RSS feed too if that suits you. Don't forget, of course, to like the podcast page on Facebook. Follow myself on Twitter as well as Beau alongside me. And most of all, please like, subscribe, share. And if you want to get in on the bets, of course, well, feel free to comment in the comment section whether or not you like some of those bets and how much you would put on them. But most of all, see you for round 1 in a few days' time.